So in today's class, we are going to start with a couple of functions that is very similar to printf and scanf, which are getChar and putChar. Okay, this is very similar to printf and scanf, but it is specifically designed for characters. Clear? Printf and scanf can work with any type of variables. GetChar and putChar is exactly same as printf and scanf, but these are specifically designed for characters. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let me open a new file, CIS 2107 plus 2 character in dots. Okay, so here I am first going to write a program using printf and scanf only, that is going to take input from the character inputs from the user. Okay, so I'm going to give character input, say today is Monday. Okay, and I'm going to give any other characters. So it is going to take character inputs from the user, scan it, store it in a variable, and print it. And it is going to keep doing this until unless I'm going to input a special character called X. Okay, you can choose any special character. Let's assume that the special character X stands for exit. Okay, so whenever I'm going to input this special character X, it is going to come out of this process. Okay, before I enter the special characters, whatever input character I'm going to write, it is going to scan that and then going to print it, and it is going to keep repeating this process until and unless I'm going to enter a special character X. Whenever it is going to get this special character, it is going to come out of this process. Okay, so let me write that program using printf and scanf first, then I'm going to replace this printf and scanf with getChar and putChar. Okay, so let's see. So start with hash include this is small. So I first need to scan one character. Okay, so let's initialize one character C, then scanf %C and %C. So this is going to scan one character and store it in C. Next, what I have said that it is going to scan one character, print it, and then it is going to scan the next character, and it is going to keep repeating this process until unless the special end character is reached. So while C not equal to this exit character, it is going to print whatever is scanned, it is going to print it. The input character is %C, and then after printing it is going to take the next character. So it is going to again use scanf %C. Okay, all right. So this is basically the logic. I am first scanning the character, checking whether it is exit character or not. If not, it is printing the character, and then scanning the next character, again checking whether next character is equal to exit character or not. If not, it is going to print it, take the next character, and this process will go on until the exit character is reached. Okay. So let's see. Let's compile this. Okay, compilation is all right. So now I'm running it. So here I need to enter some text. Say today is Monday. So you can see that the program has printed it character by character. Today is Monday. And not only that, you can see that at the end of this print, the process didn't end. Okay, because it didn't exit from the program. So it is basically waiting for the next character. Okay, so I can again enter, say we are in CIS 2107. So we are in CIS 2107. Clear? Next, say we are learning C. So we are learning C. It is again waiting for the next character because it will keep waiting it until unless I am going to enter the exit character. Okay. So whenever I am going to enter this exit character and press enter, then it will come out of this process. Clear? So this is basically the use of printf and scanf for taking repeated character until unless some special in character is entered. Clear? Okay. Now let's replace this printf and scanf using getchar and putchar. Okay. So let's see what is the corresponding syntax. So as the name suggests, getchar is basically getting the character or taking the character input from the user, and putchar is putting the correct character to the output terminal. So getchar is similar to scanf, that scans or take the character from the user. Putchar puts or prints the character to the output terminal, which is similar to print. Okay, all these are input output function. So let's see how I can replace scanf with getchar. So I can write C is equal to getchar. Getchar will take the input from the user and then store it in C. Okay. So here also this scanf also I can replace using C is equal to getchar. And putchar is basically the opposite. I can replace the printf with putchar. So I can write instead of printf I can write putchar C. Okay. So it is getting the character, checking whether it is not equal to the end character or not. If not, it is putting the character, getting the next character and checking whether it is equal to exit character or not, and so on. Clear? Okay. So I'm again compiling it, running it. So it is basically waiting for my input. So today is Monday. It is printing today is Monday. Okay. So it is scanning and then printing it. If I enter once, it is going to enter twice. Okay, because one enter, because whenever I am entering and another enter, it is basically printing, because enter is nothing but the new line character. Okay, all right. So you can see that now it is waiting for the next input. Say we are in CIS 2107. It is again printing CIS, we are in CIS 2107. We are learning C. It is printing. Okay. Next, whenever I am going to input the end character, it is going to come out. Okay. So getchar and putchar is exactly similar to printf scanf, but is only for the character. Okay. Now let's see. So let me modify this program a little bit so that whatever text I am entering, it is going to count the number of characters that are there in that text, number of lines, and number of words. Okay. So let's let me just comment it out because it is already become a little bit dirty. Let's write it in cleaner fashion. So let me write a code that is going to first count the number of characters. Next I'm going to enhance it for number of lines and words. Okay. So how to count the number of characters that I am entering? Let's initialize the number of char as 0, and then I can write while okay. Before going into this, let me just quickly write down a simplified, little bit more simplified way. Okay, here I am writing C is equal to getchar, C not equal to X, right? I can merge these two statements by writing while C is equal to getchar, not C is equal to getchar, not equal to special character. Then it is going to print it. Okay. So exactly in these two lines, I can summarize this program, whatever I have written. So here in this line, it is doing two operations. First, it is doing C equal to getChar, and then it's checking whether C is not equal to X. Okay, these two operations is happening in a single line. And this kind of usage of getChar you will find in many places. And if you compile it, it is going to do the same thing. Today is Monday. Okay, we are in CIS 2107. Learning C, and then exit. Okay. So basically, it is imitating the same thing, but in a very shorthand way of writing it. All right. Okay. So now let's enhance this program to count the number of characters that we have entered. Let's come to the next part. So the number of characters is initialized to 0. Now I am right. While C equal to getChar not equal to exit character, you are going to increment the number of characters. Okay, that's it. And at the end of the iteration, we can print the number of characters is percentage. Okay. So let's see. So I can write today is Monday. We are in CIS 2107. Okay. Here I am not printing it because I want to know the number of characters. So it is showing that the number of character entered is 34. Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So 32, and then to enter. To enter are recognized as two new line characters. Okay, so 32 character plus to enter is 34. Okay. Okay, now let's see. So instead of number of characters, suppose I want to count the number of lines that I am entering. How can you check? You need to count the number of /n that I am entering. Right? So that's it. Okay. So that means you need to check if C is equal to /n. Okay. You need to do number of lines plus. Now number of lines you need to initialize it. Okay. Notice that if you have just one line inside if else statement or for loop or any loop, you can just write it without using the bracket. If you have more than one line, then you need to put bracket. Clear? All right. So printf the number of the number of lines is percentage number of lines. Okay. So here I am writing, say today is Monday. CIS 2107. We are learning special character. Okay. We can see that the number of lines is 3. There are 3 lines. Number of lines is 3. Clear? and total number of characters is increased from 34 to 52 because I have entered another extra line. So some additional characters are added. Clear? Okay. Now if I ask you to enhance this program to count the number of words, what is going to be the idea? How many number of words are there inside this text? What is the
number of spaces?
Number of space. In addition to that, what else you need to check?
The lines.
Sorry, yeah.
The
So
lines.
number of space and also number of lines, right? Because in between Monday and we, you do not have space, but you have a new line slash, right? Because whenever we are starting a new line, we are adding a new one, even if there is no space, right? And also sometimes people use tab, right? Tab means is basically the space. If I type tab, it is going to give a extra space. Okay, so tab, sometimes while writing text people use tab instead of a single space because of giving some additional space, right? So for example, here to here I put one tab, right? So this is not a single space but a tab. Clear? So we need to check three things: space, new line, and tab. Okay, so how can I do so? I can do it like this: if c equal to space or, okay, double bar means it is logical or c is equal to tab or c is equal to blank character. Okay, if any of these things happens, you need to increment the number of words. Plus. Okay. So number of words need to be initialized to. Clear? So now we can print the number of words is percentage number of words. Clear? So now let's run it. Let's do the same thing. Today is Monday. We are in CIS 107. We are learning special character. So the number of words is 11. So let's see: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so number of words is 11, lines is 3, character is 52. Okay, so that means whatever text I'm entering, based on that it is counting the number of character, words, lines. Okay. So next I'm going to cover functions. Okay. So let's start with standard io.h. Okay. So what is function? Let's start with very simple example. So here main is also a function. Okay. But from the main function you can also call other functions. So till now we have written everything inside main, but suppose you have a very lengthy code, suppose 4,000 lines of code. So it's not a good idea to write that 4,000 lines of code inside a single function, single main function. So it's better to break this into small functions and write separate functions. Whenever you need it, you call it from main. Okay. And in fact, you may need the same function multiple times with different parameters. So if you have a function, you can pass different parameters from different places whenever you need it. Okay. So let's see how we can use function. Very simple function. We're going to start with very simple function. All right. Let's see. So let's start with the very simplest function. The simplest function is you will write a function that is going to print hello world. Okay. You have learned how to print hello world from main, but instead of doing it from main, I'm going to call a function, and inside that function it is going to print hello world. Okay. So it is going to print, it is going to call a function called say print something. Okay. So I need to write this function over here, print something. Now here it is going to print hello. All right. Now here there are two things. First thing is that if here I am not passing anything. Okay. If you want to pass something, you need to pass it inside these two braces. Okay. Suppose you want to pass an integer. Okay. You need to pass it inside these two braces. If you do not pass anything, that means its input parameters are void because nothing is passed. Okay. On the other hand, a function can return something. So suppose a function is computing something and then returning something. Okay. In this case, it is just printing it. It is not returning anything. So that means the return type is also void. So the input type is also void because it is not taking any input. The return type is also void. It is not returning anything. Okay. Alright. So let's run it and check whether it is compiling properly or not. Okay. It is supposed to give a warning, but let's So you can see that it is giving a warning, implicit declaration of function print something. What does this mean? What it means is that the compiler is reading this program from the beginning, and then whenever it is encountering this function, it has no idea what this function is. Okay, your function is declared over here, but whenever your compiler is reading this line, it has no idea what this function definition is missing. So that's how it is generating a warning that implicit declaration of the function in line 6. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this line it is raising that warning because you have written a function, but there is no definition. I do not have the definition of that function. Clear? So that is two ways to avoid this. One way is to write this function before main. Okay. You are basically declaring this function before main, so whenever it is encountering this line, it knows what print something is. Okay, so in that case, it is not going to raise any warning. That is one way. But a more conventional way is not to write all the functions before main. So this is not a very conventional way. Okay, although it will get rid of the warning, this is not a very conventional way of writing the functions ahead of main. Okay. In fact, sometimes the functions needs to be written in a separate file that you need to link. Okay. Suppose you have some hundreds of functions, okay, that are written by say 40 people in a group. Everyone cannot write a function in a single file. Okay. So everyone will work on separate file and main will call from those particular file. So for that, in those cases also you cannot write all the functions before main. Okay, it's not feasible. So the better technique is basically to declare a function prototype or definition ahead of main. So for example, if I write this, that here I am just giving you the function definition. I don't know, or I'm not giving the details of what's there inside this function. I'm only giving the type of that function. It is a function that is going to take void argument and return void argument. That's it. So in that case also, if whenever the compiler is reading this, it knows that the function definition is given and it is defined somewhere in the program. So it is not going to raise any warning either. Okay, if you run this program, it is not going to raise any warning. Clear? And in that case, you can run it, and then it is going to print hello world. Okay. So this definition is called function prototype. function prototype. Okay, this is called function prototype. It is going to basically defining your prototype. Prototype means what is the input, what is the output, or what input parameters is taking, or what return type it is written. Clear? Okay, so this is a very simple function that is not taking any argument. Okay, not taking any argument as an input. So let's take a function that is taking some argument. Okay, so let's say, suppose I want to write a function that is going to calculate the area of a circle. Now to calculate the area of a circle, you need a radius. Okay? So let's write a function area of circle that is going to pass the radius. Okay, instead of passing void, it is going to pass the radius. So let's area of circle, and here you are passing the radius, say 5.0. Okay. And the function will take this radius, calculate pi into r square, and then it is going to return the area. So the return type is going to be double because pi r square is going to be double, and you are going to store it in a variable area. Okay, this function will calculate the area, return the value. That return value is going to be stored in the variable area, which is of type double. Clear? So let's write this function area of circle, and it is taking a double argument, right? So double, and this is nothing but radius. So let's write double radius, and it is going to return, it is going to calculate the area and return the value of that area. So it is going, the return type is also double. Okay. The input type is double, the return type is also double. So then inside this function is basically going to calculate pi into radius into radius. Okay, and it is going to return whatever the value is. That's it. So the value of pi, you know how to define symbolic constant from the previous class. So define pi as 3.14. Okay, that's it. And here you can print the area of the circle is %f area. And then you need to do the function prototype, write the function prototype over here. This function prototype is double area of circle. That's it. So here it is doing implicit declaration, so I have made something over here. So it is printf. Okay, so let's run it. So here it is showing that the area of the circle is 78.5. Okay, so if the radius is 5, 5 into 5 is 25, and 25 into 3 point, also 25 into 3 is 75. So 3.14 means little more than 75. So 78.5 looks reasonable to me. Okay. All right. So using this, in this way, you can calculate the area of a circle by taking one input parameter. We are passing one input parameter. Okay. All right. Now let's take an example where it is taking two input parameter. Okay. So we can pass multiple input parameters, not just one. So for example, suppose I want to calculate the volume of a cylinder. Okay, so for calculating the volume of a cylinder, you need the radius of the base and the height. So two arguments, radius and height, right? Then only you can calculate the volume of a cylinder. So let's write that function, volume. And here you are passing two arguments. Say the radius is 5.0 and the height is 10. Okay. So the return time, let's assume that it is double, and volume. So it is going to calculate the, take two arguments, calculate the volume, return the value which is stored in variable volume, which is of type double, and then it will print the volume of the cylinder is F. So let's write this function. Call Val is going to take two arguments. First argument is the radius, second argument is height. Let's assume both are of type double. Okay. So double radius, double, and the return type is double as well. So the volume is pi into radius into height. Okay, and it is going to calculate this and return this value, which will be stored in variable volume and printed over here. Clear? Okay, so let's put the function prototype double volume and it is taking two arguments, both are of type double. Okay. So if I run it, compiling process is fine, and the volume of the cylinder is 785. Okay, this is correct because the area of the circle is 78.5 with the same radius. So volume is multiplied by the height, which is 10. So you are getting 785, which is correct. All right. Okay. So suppose I want to write a function that is going to calculate the power of a number. Okay, so 2 to the power 10. 2 to the power 10 is 1024, right? So base to the power and base to the power exponent. Yeah. So 2 to the power 10 means what? We are multiplying 2 10 times. Okay, so I'm going to write that function that is going to compute this thing. Okay, all right. So power calculation, something like that. And here I want to pass say 2 to the power 10. Okay, so the function that I need to write is base to the power exponent. Okay, 2 is base, 10 is exponent. That means the function should compute, or function should multiply base exponent number of times. Okay, here I am multiplying 2 10 times, then only I will get 2 to the power 10. Now while calculating power, we typically use integers. Okay, 5 to the power 10 or something like that. So if both are integer, then the power will also be an integer. So integer power equal to this. Okay, it's going to compute, return the value which is stored in power, and then even I can print 2 to the power is percentage. Okay, so let's write this function power calculation. The first argument is base, second argument is exponent. So int base, int exponent, and the return type is integer. Okay, all right. So as I said, the operation is I need to multiply base exponent number of times. That means I need a loop. Okay, so let's initialize the variable I, which is going to get iterated, and let's initialize the variable power value, which is going to store the value of that power. Okay, and let's initialize to 1. Why 1? Because every time I need to multiply base with power value. Okay, so after the first iteration, if I put send 2 to the power 10, I want to calculate 2 to the power 10. In the first iteration, it is going to be power value equal to 2 into power value, which is going to be 2. Next iteration is going to be 2 square, 2 cube, in this way. So let's, for I is equal to 0, I less than x, I plus plus, power value equal to power value multiplied by base. Okay, so basically I am multiplying base exponent number of times with 1. That's it. That means in the first iteration it is going to be power value, which is 1. multiplied by base. So it is going, if base is 2, it is going to be power of L equal to 2 in the first iteration. Next iteration is going to be 2 square, 2 cube until unless I reach 2 to the power 10. And at the end of the iteration, I can return, which is going to be stored in this power variable and printed over here. Okay. So let's see. So the prototype is int power calculation. So let's see. Implicit declaration. Okay, so I have made a mistake. Power calc. So you can see that 2 to the power 10 is 1024, which is correct. Okay. If I want to calculate 2 to the power 11, 2 to the power 11 is 1024 into 2 is 2048. So 2 to the power 11 should give 2048. Okay. So in this way, the power function will work. Okay. So the C compiler has its own power function inside the math library. It is called pow. But here I have written my own power function without using any of the existing functions. Alright? Because whenever we are saying that C has its own power function, that means that power function is written somewhere inside the compiler that we are invoking, right? But here, you know, using the same concept, you can write your own power function in your own way. Clear? Okay. So here are some simple examples of function that I have shown you. Now, whenever it comes to function, we need to learn two type of variable. Okay? One is local variable, one is global variable, which is very much linked to the function. Okay? So for example, let's take the example of I and power file. I and power file is defined inside this function. That means it is local to this function. Local to this function means its scope is limited within this function. You cannot use power file outside this function. You cannot use power file in this function. Okay. So this kind of variables are called local variable. Local variable means scope is limited inside the function. Another type of variables are called global variable. Global variable means if you define a variable in the global space, that means outside main or outside any function, if you define a variable or if you declare a variable, that means its scope will be throughout the course of the program. Okay, scope is global. Okay, so let's take a simple example. Int n equal to say minus 999. Okay, so this is called external variable or global variable. This is external variable because it is defined in an external space, or it is global in a global space. So that means the value of n can be used anywhere, can be used in any function inside this program. Okay, so let's see. If I print the value of n over here, the value of n is n. So here n will be printed as minus 999. Okay, so n is minus 999. Alright, because it is defined in the global space, so I can use it from anywhere. Now suppose you are declaring another n variable and initializing it to 10 inside main. Okay, so in this case this is a local variable. Here it is a local variable. That means this n will be, the scope is limited inside this main. And not only that, if you have a same variable that is defined both in local and global space, then the value of the local variable will get precedence. Okay, so that means here if I print the value of n, 10 is going to be printed. So as opposed to minus 999, the value 10 is going to be printed because the local value will get the precedence. Clear? If this line is not mentioned, then it will take the global value because in local space n is not mentioned. But if n is mentioned, sorry, But if n is mentioned in the local space, that means this local value will get the precedence. Okay. So inside main, this n equal to 10 will get the precedence. However, inside any other function, so for example here if I print the value of n, the value of n inside print function is %t. If I compile this, you will see that the value of n inside print function is minus 999, but value of n inside main is 10. Okay. So inside this function, n is not a local variable. So that means it is going to fetch it from the global space. But inside this function, n is a local value. That means it is going to retain its value. Now let's move to the next topic, so which is about arrays, and especially how we can initialize and work with character. Okay, so let's see. Okay, suppose I want to initialize a double array, say int array 1, and then I want to put 5 numbers, 5 double inside this array. Okay, how can I put it? So I can write 5.0 comma 4.0 comma 3.0 comma 3.0. So in this way I can initialize an array. So array elements needs to be separated by comma inside 2 curly braces. Okay, and inside this 2 square bracket you can either pass the number of elements. Here you can write either 5 or you can keep it blank. Okay, you can either pass the size of the array, otherwise you can put blank. So this is one way of initializing an array. Okay. Suppose you want to print the elements the array, you can just write a loop for I equal to 0 less than 5 plus plus the into f array 1, and then print the next line. So it is iterating through this array element. Array 0 is the first element, array 1 is the next element, and so on. Okay. So let's compile. Okay, so sorry, this is double or float, whatever. Okay, these are not integers. So you can see that all these numbers are printed, but it's printed in a very cluttered fashion because 6 zeros are printed after these values, after point, and also there is no space. Okay, so you can use the previous trick that we have learned in the previous class. You can use 6.2 or something. That means in total it is going to take 6 space, and after point it is going to print 2 digits. Okay. So now we can see that there is a space, and also it is printed 2 digits after the point. So in total it is taking 6 space, including 2 digits after the point. Okay, that's it. And so you can print the elements of an array. Okay. Now here you can just visually identify that there are 5 elements. That's why we are easily putting 5 over here. But in general, suppose you have several hundreds, 500 or thousands of values inside an array. Okay, suppose you are reading an array from a file and there are several thousands of numbers. You cannot count that how many numbers are there and then put that number over here. Right? That is infeasible. So there is a smart way of finding the length of the array or size of the array. Okay, there is a very smart way of finding the length. So let's see. So there is a function called size of. Okay, you see that whenever I'm writing size of, this coloring in brown, that means it's a keyword. So this size of function works as follows. So inside this bracket, whatever you are going to put, size of function is going to return the number of bytes that is allocated by that entity. Okay. So suppose if I type size of integer, it is going to return the number of bytes that is allocated to the memory by an integer. Okay. If I pass size of double, that means it is going to return the number of bytes allocated to the memory by a double. Yeah. Similarly, if I type size of array 1, that means it is going to return the number of bytes allocated to the memory by this array, by this entire array. Okay. The number of memory space in bytes taken by this array. Okay. Okay. So then tell me, by using this size of function, can we find out a clever way of finding the length of the array? That means the number of elements of the array.
You
How
can
can I
divide
do
it by the size of the first element or the
Okay,
second or
great.
whatever.
Yeah. So size of the entire array divided by size of one element, right? That's it. Size of the entire array divided by size of any element. So array 1 0 or array 1 1 2, any element. Okay. Number of bytes taken by the entire array divided by the number of bytes taken by a single element. That is going to give the number of elements in that array. Okay. That you are basically calling as the length. Yes, 2. That's it. This is going to give the length of an array if you do not know what is the length of an array. Okay, suppose you have a huge array that you are reading from a file, you do not know the length. After reading all the elements, you can write this line, which is going to give you the length of the array. So instead of writing 5, you can simply. Okay. So this is going to print this, and you can add any number of elements after that: 6.0, 7.0, 9.0, 32.0, something like that. Print that many elements, and if you want to print the length also, the length so here you have 9 elements: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, 9 elements. So you can add as many number of elements as you want. This program is going to be very flexible enough to accommodate all these things. Okay. Okay. So you have learned how to initialize a double array. In a similar way, you can initialize integer array also. Okay. Integer array, floating point array. Now let's learn a little bit about character array. Okay. Character array, initializing character array is slightly different. Okay. Similar but slightly different. So let's say array 2, and let's assume that I want to put the maximum 10 characters in this array. Okay, you can either keep it blank like this, otherwise you can put the maximum size. Okay, so let's assume 10. Now suppose I want to, in this array, suppose let's start with a very simple example. I want to put OK. So array 0 is going to be O, second element is going to be K. So how can I initialize it? I can initialize it. You can initialize character in multiple ways. Let's see. The easiest way is to initialize element by element. So array 0 is equal to O. Array 1 is going to be equal to K. Now, these two are not sufficient, because a character array must be terminated with a termination character or null character. Okay. A character array needs to be terminated with a termination character or null character, which looks like this. So this is a null character or a termination character. Okay. Why? Because suppose if I print say %s array 2. Suppose I print this, say the character array is %s is for the string array 2. It is going to start printing character by character until and unless it reaches the null character or termination character. Whenever it is going to, whenever the compiler will encounter the termination character, it will understand that this is the end of that string. Okay. So if you compile it, you will see that the character is okay. All right. So after this termination character, even if you put some elements, say 3 equal to say a, after the termination character, if you even if you put ay, still your compiler is not going to print ay. Okay. Your compiler, after okay, it has encountered this null character or termination character. That means it has understood that this is the end of the string. It is not going to print anything after the termination character. Okay, whatever you are going to print. Okay. So the point is that a character array must be terminated with the termination character or null character. Okay. Instead of putting the termination character over here, if you put it after y, then it is going to print okay ay. Okay, because termination character is not here, it is here. Okay, so your compiler is going to print till it reaches the termination character. If it reaches the termination character, it is not going to print anything more. Okay. Okay. Another way of initializing it is by using the same method, but at the end of the last character, you need to enter the termination character. Okay. So, for example, here also you can write O A A Y, and then before ending, you need to turn into the termination character. Okay. This will also work. Here also, if you run it, this will also work. The string is okay. All right. You can either initialize using this or this, or there is a third way, which is by typing it inside two double quote. Okay. Say hello world. In this case, you do not need to type a termination character, because whenever you are putting it inside double quote, that means the compiler is going to put a null character at the end of the last character in the memory. Okay, it is anyway going to put the null character at the end, so you do not need to put it separately. And here it will print okay. So here it is giving a warning. Initial string for array of characters is too long. So what is the problem? The problem is that here I put 10. That means the character can store a maximum of 10 elements. But here my size is more than 10. So this is 5, this is 5 plus another 4. So it is more than 10 elements. So instead of 10, if I put 20, this warning will be 20. So the string is hello world. Okay. Now let's with this understanding, let's write a method that is going to count the number of characters in a character array. Okay, here I have shown you how to count the number of elements, right? In this double array, or the same process applied to integer. In character array, how can I count out the number of elements in the character array?
Would you use something similar to size of?
Size of is not needed. In fact, size of means it is going to check how many bytes are allocated in the memory for this entire array. Okay, so it may take the 10 elements, right? So size of is not appropriate, but here I know that a character array terminates with a termination character. So that means I need to write a loop that is going to iterate through character by character until unless I reach the termination character, right? So let's see. So that means I need a loop. So for I is equal to 0, let's assume that I want to find out the number of characters in string. Okay, so string of I is not equal to termination character plus plus. Count character plus plus. So here the count character needs to be initialized to 0. Okay. That's it. The number of characters is percentage okay. So here what I have done is that I'm basically checking the number of characters that I need to traverse until and unless I encounter a null character. Okay, that's it. So the number of characters is 4 because in this string OKAY you have 4 characters. Okay. For string 1, let's type string 1. So here the number of characters is 14. So hello world. So this is 5. This is 5. 5, 5, 10. This 3 plus 1, 4, 14. Okay. Now C also provides a existing method called string length. Okay, string length. So strlen, string length. You pass say string 1 over here. This is going to return the length of the string. Okay, string length. So let's input length in this percentage string length of string. Okay, so let's see whether it is working or not. So it is giving a warning implicit declaration of function string length because it resides in a different library called string.h. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so this warning is gone. The next warning is it is expecting an integer. Okay, so for the time being, ignore this warning. Okay, this is a warning, not an error. For the time being, ignore this warning. Later on, I'm going to show you long int and all those things. Okay, so basically, this is expecting a long int. This is an inbuilt function that is expecting a long int. So for the timing, ignore this one. In the next class, we are going to come to this detail. Okay, this is not going to change the answer of your outcome. Okay. So you see that the length of the string is 14. So whatever I'm getting over here, string length is giving the same number. Okay. So you can either write your own function, otherwise the same function is written inside this string length function, which is residing in this header. Okay, and you can add anything. Hello world, today is Monday. Okay, and in this case it is going to exceed 20, so let's make it 50. So you can see that in both cases the number of characters are 30. So that means my answer is correct.